Women live 5 to 7 years on average longer than men. I think I read a recent study that's actually closer to 8. That's another 8 years that we have to fund retirement. That's another 8 years potentially living off of one pension, living off of one Social Security, depending on what choices you've made in the past. So that's a lot of stuff that could go away.
Welcome to our Happy Rainmakers Video Series, where point one can make a difference. Today, I'm lucky to be joined by Niraj Chhabra, who is a certified financial planner with Sidebar Advisors. Welcome, Niraj.
Hi, good to see you again, Jen.
Now, I know that you work a lot with female attorneys too. And in fact, you have a whole networking series that's geared to them and some training and resources available. Are there a lot of differences in retirement planning for female attorneys?
Yeah, there are. There's a couple of nuances, as it pertains to financial planning. So women are typically, historically, I should say, have earned less money than men. And it's less of an issue in the legal profession, but it still exists. There's a lot of firms that have women's initiatives, and they're very proactive about wage equality and things of that nature, which is great. But certain things don't change, whether you're in the industry or not. So in our experience, we have a lot of clients that are very high-powered attorneys at their firms, and they're women, but they're the primary breadwinner, but they're still the ones that are packing their kids' lunches at school for school in the morning, So a lot of the times it's still women that will take a backseat on their career in order to take care of the families. So that's the first thing. Women will typically have less money in their 401ks compared to some of their male colleagues, simply for the fact that they were out of the workforce for a significantly longer period of time. There's also other responsibilities that women are responsible for. It's not just being a caregiver to their kids. It's also they're more likely to be a caregiver for their aging parents. Mm-hmm. So you could have a brother and a sister, and let's assume that the sister is an attorney. There's a double whammy because there's the fact that, statistically speaking, 75% of caregivers are women. But then there's that expectation, well, Jennifer's an attorney. She could afford to take care of mom and dad. So this should fall on her shoulders. Well, guess what? Now Jennifer has to put her kids through college, and she has less money because she's helping support mom and dad than her brother did, So that's one of the things that really matters. The other thing is longevity. Women live 5 to 7 years on average longer than men. I think I read a recent study that's actually closer to 8. That's another 8 years that we have to fund retirement. That's another 8 years that, you might be a widow without, surviving without your spouse. That's another 8 years potentially living off of one pension, living off of one Social Security, depending on what choices you've made in the past. So that's a lot of stuff that could go away. Oh, by the way, if you get older and frail, there's a greater likelihood that you're going to need long-term care. When your spouse was alive and needed care, you were there to take care of them. But they pass away. Who's taking care of you?
So when you're working with a female attorney, are you able to help them decide on some of these issues? Like if you were the surviving spouse and you needed long-term care, you needed more funding for certain things, let's put that aside. Let's make sure we have it. That's something that you bring up in those conversations?
100%. We have to, so if, a good example is if there's a pension on the table, we need to factor in, are we taking 100% for one spouse, but if something happens to them, the pension goes away entirely? Or are we going to take a significantly reduced pension, but make sure it's going to be available for both spouses, regardless of who passes away first? That's a big decision. And most of the time people will opt for the bigger pension and roll the dice. I've seen situations where that really wouldn't have worked out, unfortunately. And fortunately, they listened and they made the right choice. But that's a big factor. And you want to make sure that, we can't we're going to treat both spouses equally, but doesn't mean that we have to treat them the same. They have to be treated a little bit differently to account for these variances.
Well, that's something that I hadn't thought about. So everybody who's watching this video is probably having a bit of an aha moment. And I think you'll probably get a few more calls than usual. Thank you so much for being with us today.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, John.